5 years of Nintendo Switch. Nintendo has been incredibly productive as a publisher in the Switch era, releasing new games almost every month, basically sustaining the console on their own. Of course, there's a good amount of third-party games available, but if you ask me the question, would you survive with a Switch if Nintendo was the only publisher for the console? Absolutely! There's a huge variety in genres, from platformers to visual novels. As a publisher, I don't think anyone's beating Nintendo at the moment, which is unfair to compare because they are one of the oldest in this market, and because of that they accumulated a huge catalog to explore. Well, how did they achieve that on Switch? How they've gone from the slim support of Wii U to this? You probably already know the answer, but I want to elaborate a little more on their strategy. The main reason, obviously, is that Nintendo has only one console in the market right now. There's only one basket to put all of their fruits. It simply made sense to do that since the Switch is a hybrid. I remember how I was frustrated during the 3DS and Wii U era, because I had just bought the shiny new home console, the first HD machine that this company has ever produced, and a bunch of cool series were appearing exclusively on the 3DS. I mean, Luigi's Mansion? Seriously, that's a home console property. And then, well, no Fire Emblem, no Animal Crossing, and in the end the situation got so out of control that Nintendo had the guts to actually port Wii U games to the 3DS. Now, on Switch the inverse is happening. Justice is being made, which is something very interesting. Series that were traditionally portable are appearing on the big screen. 2D Metroid, Pokémon, Advance Wars, and thank God Luigi's Mansion. We can finally see those games with a large scope. Just look at the newly announced Pokémon, which will finally be a fully open world experience. But not all of these series sell millions and millions like Pokémon to have such a huge jump in budgets. And that's great. You see, not every game has to be massive. One of the biggest strengths of Nintendo in the market right now as a publisher is how they are not forgetting their B and C projects. That's the secret sauce for their consistency as a publisher. The gaming world is starting to face an issue related to the size of AAA games. Those products rely heavily on a huge budget and a long development cycle because they are huge, cinematic, and crazily detailed. Even the most basic animation in those games will be made with scrutiny. What bothers me is that those projects demand time and money. You know that those two are kind of the same thing for a company, so they end up affecting other projects. Look at Sony, for example. It's clear that they don't intend to work on smaller projects anymore. Their whole brand right now is to provide experiences with a high level of investment to appeal to their public. This seems to work fine for Sony. They are releasing quality games and the public is always looking forward for the next one, even if it takes years to produce. With Nintendo, the situation is different. Third parties are not releasing their hot and new games on the Switch. Most of the time the console is receiving ports of old games. Not only that, but Nintendo has many IPs and each one of them has a fanbase asking for a new entry. Those are the reasons why it's smart to keep investing in smaller projects. I want the new Zelda, Mario, Pokémon, but until those are ready, I will gladly take WarioWare, Mario Strikers, Mario Party, Pokémon Snap, Nintendo Switch Sports, and many others. Again, not every game has to be an open world cinematic action adventure experience. We all know that an idea can make a game much more successful than just budget. Look at Minecraft, Undertale. For a bunch of people, Nintendo's B team has more value than their A team. It's a matter of preferences. That's why variety is so important. It's always good to leave some room for experimentation, you know? I love how Nintendo can produce something like Labo or Game Builder Garage, when a bunch of companies would be very reluctant to publish something like that. Tell me, Ubisoft, why won't you give another chance to Rayman? Why you are spending so many years developing Beyond Good and Evil with such a megalomaniac goal? Sometimes the focus on AAA projects can be really detrimental because if an effort of years goes wrong, that's it. It was the only chance that the developers had. The loss is abysmal. Impressive as it may seem, EA is a good example in that specific department. Their project, EA Originals, where they help smaller studios to publish their games, is fantastic. Thanks to that project, we had amazing titles like Unravel and the recent Game of the Year, It Takes Two. I truly think that B projects make a lot of sense from a business perspective. There's a different public that you can reach with that. That's basically why I love Switch's library so much. There's always something different and exciting every year. That's why every E3 we see how much of a difference there is between Nintendo Directs and the other presentations, where a lot of the games feel very samey in their visuals and gameplay ideas. I should add here that this probably wouldn't work for others just like it does for Nintendo. Nintendo has its brand to support them. It's safe to say that anything with their logo attached at the box will receive attention. But then we have indie developers being successful with crazy concepts and small budgets, proving that yes, you can do a lot with less. Now, of course Nintendo is not a saint.
In this specific generation, sometimes I get the impression that the company is really aggressive with pricing. Wii U ports or a Wii remaster costing full price is something a little weird. For some games like WarioWare, Clubhouse Games and Game Builder Garage, they do not ask for a full price, so that's nice. At the end of the day, it's really hard to argue about that because those games are selling ridiculously well, even at full price. I just wish that some of the smaller ones would receive a price drop after a while. A nice idea would be to permanently lower the price of big projects that aren't selling that much anymore. I mean, what's the reason to keep Yoshi's Crafted World, 1-2-Switch, Kirby Star Allies and others at their full prices? Those products probably already paid themselves and new users would buy them more easily with a program like Nintendo Selects. And going further, why not give one of those games via Nintendo Switch Online? It would be way better than the 1-week trial mode and could give more exposition to a series like ARMS, for example. Again, it's something that simply makes sense to me, but I don't work at the company nor do I have any knowledge about administration. It's just a guess.
With only 5 years, the Switch has already what I consider one of my favorite libraries in all of Nintendo consoles. Considering that the little machine is still selling like crazy, I can easily expect 5 more years. Yeah, 5 more years of support. 2022 is sounding insane with the number of games already announced, so it seems that there's no plan to slow down. It feels as if we are seeing the best Nintendo when the topic solely productivity. Yes, productivity. In other areas we have other problems. They have a successful hardware on their hands, money to spend, and a good strategy to back it all up. It's a good time for Nintendo games in general, and I hope that they can keep up the good momentum. I also hope that they can avoid becoming arrogant, just because they are at the top of their game. We know very well that consumers can go away as easily as they come. And that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye! I think I'll always record with natural light from now on, because it just looks way better from what I'm looking here. And it's easy to set up also.